So, Colin has come back for more and proceeded to embarrass himself once more. I'm sure we're all shocked by this. Oh, and I'm hearing reports that he's deleting comments en masse. That doesn't really shock me, since when I first looked at his video, he was being flooded with a ton of comments just pooping on what he's saying, and all of a sudden a video with 4K views only has 34 comments, with many comments mysteriously gone? Interesting. Never had to do that with any criticism towards my video. What might have caused such negative comments to be made? I'm sure he made really sound defenses for himself.
For people wondering where my new videos are gonna be at, I am currently waiting for sponsorships to get back to me, otherwise I would have posted multiple already. I'm just waiting on them before I'm allowed to post the videos.
Or you could get a job.
And I don't even want to be making this video today. But you know, things happen.
It starts with Colin responding to someone requesting basic moderation in Marvel Rivals because they saw a username called Jew Genocide. It seemed like he had a problem with the tweet, so I decided to push back because that's obviously ridiculous to judge someone for. I decided to criticize Colin on this from a couple of angles, one of which being that this would reflect poorly on him and could give ammo to people who already want to falsely tarnish his image. The other being that making fun of genocide isn't appropriate for a Marvel superhero game for kids, and expecting basic moderation for this is completely reasonable. Colin proceeds to say that his problem is that this person decided to leave a Marvel Rivals match because of the Jew Genocide name, despite the Twitter user in question being Jewish. He proceeded to display a blatant lack of empathy and said that he doesn't care, and that leaving the game because the genocide of their people was made fun of makes them a pussy. He proceeds to downplay the idea that the Holocaust being made fun of could be offensive by showing that World War II ended in 1945, even though anti-Semitism didn't die in 1945. I tell him that the effects this has on their family members would obviously extend to their children as well, who would have to hear of such horrific stories involving their family.
Okay, so first things first, my point is, and it has always been, that literally no normal person that has some semblance of a spine is going to have some mental breakdown or some fucking war flashback over someone joking about a horrific event that happened almost a century ago.
Colin, stop embarrassing yourself. First of all, there wasn't a mental breakdown. They left the video game, and you complained they ruined the fun of the game, even though you could just leave the match and join a new one if it was really detrimental, or wait for a replacement, or just deal with it because winning or losing a goddamn video game is not serious compared to the genocide of your people being made fun of.
Especially since most people weren't even fucking alive when it happened.
Do you not know what Holocaust Remembrance is? Also, last year, there were around 245,000 Holocaust survivors. Stop downplaying the effects of the Holocaust as if almost nobody's affected by it. And it doesn't matter if you lived through the Holocaust, because basic human empathy requires you to feel for your family members who suffered through it. Though I'm sure basic human empathy is something you're unfamiliar with, as you've shown time and time again.
And if you were, then by all means. And if you're someone who does, you shouldn't be on the internet regardless.
Let me get this straight. You shouldn't be on the internet just because some assholes out there disrespect the Holocaust? Neo-Nazis exist in real life, so by your messed up logic, you shouldn't be in any community whatsoever because you have basic human emotions. And by the way, the situation in question is that the Jewish player simply left the game upon seeing the username. They removed themselves from the situation, and you complained about it. Now you're telling them to remove themselves from online activity entirely? Pick one.
Because you clearly have mental problems that you need to work out.
So according to Colin, you have mental problems if you prefer not to see the genocide of your people made fun of.
My entire point in general, though, as I've explained many times, is that in my personal opinion, and I didn't even think this was a big deal, SK was the one that made this a big deal. If you're willing to leave a game, what you would be doing is ruining the fun of other people for X amount of time.
As opposed to making fun of the genocide of their people, you're saying the deaths of a million strangers are more important than my video games?
Just because you couldn't handle an offensive username. Then, in my opinion, you're just being soft.
How is it being soft to remove yourself from a situation? Were you soft when you left the VC because you were whining about Kronos interrupting you when you said something stupid?
Colin, you're literally getting upset over me being hyperbolic about a movie, bro. You gotta fucking.
What do you mean I'm getting upset because I was trying to have a conversation. You keep cutting me off.
Because you keep interrupting me on Discord, and that's pissing me off.
That doesn't mean you're a soft bitch for the rest of your life. That just means in that moment, I think you're being soft.
Kinda like you when people tell you to get a job.
I never said that you couldn't be offended or anything of that nature, but SK will continue to spread that narrative.
But you're literally judging them for being offended and you're calling them a pussy for it.
Even though I've explained that multiple times, he just wants to keep lying about his misinterpretation of it, and I refuse to believe it's a misinterpretation because I have explained this so many times.
Yeah, and each and every time, you made yourself look like a complete idiot. Like when you said it shouldn't affect people because most of the people from the Holocaust died anyway. That is such a messed up thing to say. You also said that people shouldn't be on the internet, like doing something as simple as playing a video game to wind down and have fun, just because insensitive people exist. He then proceeded to spam the end date of World War II without making any kind of argument against what I said. He continues to make non-arguments against what we're saying when this is clearly bothering us. We're trying to give him honest criticism, and he's not listening.
Did you ever think it was because that tweet I made was something that happened and I didn't take too seriously and moved on with my day, and you decided to keep pestering me about said thing even though I'm clearly disinterested in arguing about something that I found so fucking mundane? But no, you like to be the moral superior and everything on the internet, so you couldn't fucking drop this shit when it was never that serious at all.
First of all, you only needed to say that you're tired and we'll talk about it later instead of repeatedly deflecting and making disingenuous arguments. You proceeded to provoke us instead, and fake being suicidal. Second of all, that doesn't disprove what I said about how you refuse to listen to honest criticism. And while I found his overall mindset immature and wished he would grow moving forward, it wasn't enough for me to decide I can't be friends with this person. Because at least in the past, it seemed like he was willing to accept criticism even if he was so prone to making idiotic decisions in the heat of conflict.
Tell me what's a harmless racist joke right now. Tell me one.
The shit that I said. My example.
One.
I just said it. What's
Tell
so
me.
bad about? What's so bad about? I just
Say
said it. The shit
Say
that I
it.
said. The watermelon
Say it again.
shit. Oh my
Say it
fucking
again.
god.
Say it again.
Are
Say it
you
again.
stupid? Are you
Say it
stupid?
again. Say it
The
again.
watermelon shit. Let me say it louder.
Say it.
The watermelon shit. Let me say it 4 more times. Watermelon, watermelon, melon, melon, watermelon. WATERMELON. Watermelon.
We're not gonna say the joke. Say the joke. Say the joke right now. Say it. Say a joke.
You're black
Say a
and you eat
harmless
watermelon.
joke. Let's see,
You're black and you eat watermelon. I mean, if I could probably think of something clever.
Colin has this tendency to throw his opinions in a provocative manner, and while some of this can be in light fun, at other times, this can create serious problems and allegations against him.
I like how he shows this video that he knows is disingenuous and was fine with when we were friends, because this happened when we were still friends.
No, the clip isn't disingenuous, you stupid idiot. It showed the full context and exactly what both sides said. The edit from Jack Kentner wasn't created to frame Colin as a racist. Jack Kentner can leave a comment on this video and confirm exactly what I'm saying. My sole point was that Colin handles himself in really stupid and untactful ways, especially when hit with serious allegations. I literally said it wasn't a smart move at the time, though I understood the point of trying to stay consistent with his stance on those jokes as opposed to being challenged to back down on it. That, however, doesn't make your stance or your way of going about it smart.
Because the actual context of this video comes from an argument where some dude was trying to call me, or anyone for that matter, a genuine and actual racist person just because someone laughs at or makes offensive jokes that they don't actually mean.
It's a good thing that neither Jack Kentner and I made that accusation. The problem is that when you're hit with these accusations, you proceed to respond in the way you did.
I told the guy that he's literally blowing his top over a joke that is basically harmless, and wasn't even said to him, mind you, before this, right? This came from a clip of one of my videos where I said, by this logic, someone is an actual racist if they make a watermelon joke about black people.
Which I told you not to include in the video, but you didn't listen to me. Funny how that works.
And while this guy was blowing his top over this, he told me to say the joke and just kept trying to bitch me in a fucking Discord call, expecting me to just bend my knee and be a silent little bitch, as if I'm scared to say something in a Discord call. Dude was acting tough in a Discord call and wanted me to pipe down, and I didn't.
Yes, I know he was trying to get you to double down. Jack Kentner also knows this. That's the purpose of him including the entire clip. Put 2 and 2 together.
Even SK knows this video is disingenuous and shouldn't be used in a video attempting to smear me.
Oh my god, a video capturing what happened can't be disingenuous, you stupid idiot. It's how you frame videos that can be disingenuous. Jack Kentner didn't use the video edit to smear you as a racist. He made the edit because it was funny and it highlights how bad you are at handling allegations, which was the sole point I made. Maybe next time, don't rush out a response video by pulling an all-nighter while you're bleeding subscribers.
and he found it funny in the past, but here we are.
Colin, I find the amazing Lucas funny. That doesn't mean I think what you did was wise. Like what we saw in this clip right here, he seems to have much less of a lid on what he calls edgy humor, and while I think it's really immature of him, I was also hoping he'd grow and mature over time, at least partially because of input from the company he keeps. That's represented by the pushback you're seeing from me in these messages, but as you can clearly tell, he seemed to only ignore criticism because he doesn't want to hear it.
Yes, because the criticism, quote-unquote, that I receive about finding offensive jokes or fucked up things funny or making those jokes myself are something I don't care about as much as you do, SK.
Colin, your antics on Twitter literally made us look bad. I had people DMing me that you might be a neo-Nazi. I think people believing that I'm friends with a neo-Nazi is something very reasonable for me to be concerned about. On top of this, if you don't care about that situation that much, then don't complain when people criticize your public tweets. If you don't care to argue for hot button issues, then don't touch them to begin with. If you want to talk, expect people to talk back. That's how this works. Telling people you don't care when my point is that you can't accept criticism only reaffirms what I'm saying.
SK would constantly try to treat me like a fucking child.
Because you act like a child.
And tried to make me bend the knee over any slightly controversial thing I was a part of or said. And he didn't do it because he was actually worried about me. His reasoning that he's given multiple times when I told them, okay, why do you care? This is about me. His reasoning that he would give is because people would DM him and go to him about stuff I said or did.
That entirely affects all of us, you absolute clown. Also, if you have a bad take, I'm going to criticize it. If I think you're stepping out of line, I'm going to criticize it. I've done this with my friends many times, though I can safely say that 99.9% of the time, they haven't faked suicide to avoid said criticism. This is the fundamental difference between you and many other friends of mine that I disagree with, or friends who say things that I consider immoral or just plain immature. Most of them can listen to criticism and be reasoned with. You can't. They also tend to have jobs.
And he even says that in a recorded call that he has while the whole "you're a racist" situation was going on. And I don't block out criticism entirely. I block out criticism that I think is coming from someone who's just being a bitch in the moment.
It's being a bitch to tell you to have basic empathy for people instead of calling them pussies for wanting to leave a situation when they're made uncomfortable because the Holocaust was made fun of.
And is a soft little snowflake that can't just ignore me and go on with their day.
Like I just said, if you want to publicly make a point, people can respond. If you talk, people can talk back. This is how it works, Colin. Why couldn't you just ignore my Spider-Man PS4 video? You're being a soft little snowflake. Go on with your day.
But instead, they choose to cry over something that wasn't that serious in the first place and wasn't even meant to be taken seriously.
Crying is when we criticize you. I guess the many responses you make to people is just you crying over their opinions. It's one thing to be immature and ignorant, but it's a whole nother thing to block out criticism entirely because you're unwilling to hear it. Comic Legend even tells him to have some tact when we're clearly annoyed with him, and he proceeds to ignore this entirely. Comic Legend was so confused and didn't understand the behavior, so he wanted to check on Colin's mental state to see how this would explain how he's behaving right now. He spams no to us in the chat when asked if he's okay. He proceeds to claim that he wants to kill himself, and we're all left shocked by this. I specifically told him this isn't funny in the event this is some kind of joke of his, so he must have known that we clearly had a problem with this from the start. He then proceeds to send a fake YouTube login and says first come first serve. We then start a Discord call with him because we're worried that he could end up taking his life. He then joins the call to laugh at us for taking the situation seriously, despite him making an active effort to make us believe him.
I still to this day can't even understand how even after I sent a GIF image of saying Jarvis rage bait this guy and proceeded to say a bunch of bullshit, then said, I'm gonna go KMS now, see you later, that he actually took it as seriously as he was in the moment.
Remember how Colin insisted how sorry he was for the suicide baiting to make it seem like I was unreasonable not to believe him? Well, here's another reason you shouldn't believe he's sorry. He addresses this by saying he can't believe people took him seriously at all, even though when he saw us take it seriously, he proceeded to convince us even further as opposed to dropping the act. And if I've literally had experience with friends who have considered taking their lives and have been put on edge each and every time this has happened, and was recently dealing with harassment towards a friend who has contemplated suicide in the past, I'm certainly going to be put on edge when another friend displays the exact same behavior. And even if you have a slight doubt that someone isn't being serious when they say they want to kill themselves, it is better to stay on the side of caution because your actions can mean the difference between life and death. Falsely putting that pressure on your friends friends is disgusting, and not something you laugh at people for taking seriously.
And that while in the moment I could recognize that he was worried, I didn't actually grasp the extent of how seriously he was taking it.
Wait, so you knew we were worried, and you proceeded to continue anyway. Thanks for the self-report. And how much more worried do we need to be for you to drop the act? If we're worried, then we actually believe you were thinking of taking your life. That's the most serious we could take it. So why did you continue the act anyway?
I only started to get more level-headed and realize this after he removed me from the group chat and his server.
And still didn't properly apologize?
Most likely due to the fact that I was awake for 24 hours, which is literally proven to impair one's judgment. That's why you're not supposed to drive when you're tired.
Impaired judgment doesn't mean impaired morals. You just admitted you knew we took it seriously and proceeded anyway. Being awake for 24 hours results in car accidents. It doesn't result in you deliberately crashing into people like you're part of the 1/10th intelligence.
And the fact that I was already in an unserious mood laughing about this in another server. And I even tried to explain this to SK in another call where he just continuously accused me of lying. And his proof of me lying was just saying "nuh-uh" to every word I spoke.
That's a straw man, but I'm happy to share examples of you clearly being dishonest. It doesn't look great for you.
And then after you kept going, I was like, all right, I'm just going to start trolling at this point. And that's when it went into that.
So we clearly have a problem with something you're saying. And instead of actually using the time you're willing to spend while apparently having been awake for 24 hours, instead of using that to engage honestly, you choose to piss us off.
Yes, because we're friends, and I didn't think it would be taken that seriously. Like, what?
So, no, that's a lie. That's a lie, and I'll explain why that's a lie.
What's a lie?
I'll tell you what's a lie. I'll tell you what's a lie. We did take it seriously, and you kept playing into it.
How the fuck do you guys know I'm not fucking trolling? Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
Wait, you were not high?
No, I'm trolling. Jesus Christ, dude.
Oh my fucking god. I'm not dealing with this. Someone else can fucking...
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'm fucking done.
Alright, goodbye. I just wanted.
No one's laughing.
Get out of here.
I
Go
was
away.
just fucking with you guys.
I don't think anyone wants to hear your voice now. You can actually fucking leave.
I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
How the fuck do you guys know I'm not fucking trolling?
I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
And his proof of me lying was just saying "nuh-uh."
We straight up say, this is not funny. We want the truth. Are you actually suicidal right now? And you proceeded to convince us it was the case.
I didn't think it would be taken that serious. I didn't think it would be taken that serious. I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
And his proof of me lying was just saying "nuh-uh."
After I joined in laughing, I said, okay, if it was actually that deep, because mind you, I'm still under the impression, and when I say seriously, obviously you're taking my, how me saying seriously is different from how you took it seriously, extremely seriously versus just seriously. I didn't think it would be taken that serious. I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
And then I'm literally saying, where are you? What are you doing right now? And you say, learning how to tie a hang rope. So I'm clearly taking this seriously.
No, I acknowledge that. I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
Gotcha, fuckface.
Yeah, so then you knew that, but then you
proceeded. What did I just say before you started talking? I didn't think it would be taken that serious. No, me and you are clearly having different interpretations of, serious.
I mean, I honestly can't say that
if you don't want to believe me,
Shut up, let me finish.
if you don't want to believe me,
you've lied before. You've lied several
What did I lie
times.
about? What did I lie about?
How the fuck do you guys know I'm not fucking trolling?
I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
This right here. You were trying to deflect. You were trying to defend yourself. And if you want to say it's not backhanded, okay? Firstly, you didn't start with the apology. If it was sincere, you would have started with that. What you started with was, alright bro, can it be over now? I will never troll again.
Yes, because you were still going on about
it to be over. You're not
yes,
actually
I did
sorry
want it.
you did anything wrong. You just wanted it to
No, wait.
Shut up, let me finish.
I'm not gonna stay here if you don't let me finish the sentence. Me saying I'm sorry, and me also wanting to just be over with it already at this point is not me not being sorry. That's me being sorry and being like, okay, can we move on?
You know, when I try to apologize for someone, for something that I did wrong, I don't just go, can it be over? I'm sorry, okay? I deeply apologize. Can it be over now? Because that just makes you sound whiny. That makes you sound like a child. That makes you sound like a 12-year-old that's just like, Dad, can it be over now? That's what you sound like. When you give an apology to somebody, if it's actually sincere, you don't show them any attitude. You don't give them any flack.
So that's cool. That's how you would do it.
No, it's not about what I would do. It's about what someone who actually is giving an earnest apology would do.
Is there like some objective measure of how an apology is actually
really when you're apologizing for something and you're trying to take accountability, you don't whine to people. That's usually what happens. Unless you're
compare that to working a job.
Unless you're
yeah, okay, then I'm a child. That doesn't really necessarily mean that
I'm glad you're at peace with that.
Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that I wasn't actually sorry. And I am sorry that I didn't think you would act like that. Okay?
All right, in that moment, when would it have been enough for you to drop the troll? Like, when would it have been enough?
In that moment, when you took it to the length of like, oh, I'm so mentally hurt by this that I don't think we can be friends anymore. That's when.
So, me taking the threat seriously isn't enough for you. That is what you just admitted.
Got you, fuckface.
No, because I thought it was a fucking joke.
You just did.
I just did. Can I talk? Like, when you interrupt me, it fucking... God, it's so annoying, man.
Miss Brandt?
Yes?
Get me a violin.
Repeat what you just said.
So, you just said that us taking the threat seriously is not enough for you to drop the troll.
Because I didn't... Again, in that current headspace, I didn't actually think you were taking it that deeply.
Again, I'm gonna go back to why I don't believe that. We made the call.
I don't care what
you're working a job.
You believe. Okay, okay. At this point, I don't care what you believe. All I can say is what I was thinking. That's the end of it. Again, I don't know what you want from me there.
I mean, I think you're flip-flopping your positions because, I mean, did you really think that when I say, where are you, what are you doing right now? Did you really think that we just did that for no reason? That we just did that?
No, I didn't say, No. When did I say that?
So we did take it serious. So you knew we took it seriously and you still did it.
Got you, fuckface.
After I saw you guys being like, oh, wait, are you serious? Join VC, what are you doing right now? And I was like, alright, let me just join the call and
no, that's the wrong timeline. We said that first and then you proceeded to continue convincing us it was real.
After I saw you guys being like, oh, wait, are you serious? Join VC, what are you doing right now? And I was like, alright, let me just join the call and
no, that's the wrong time.
And his proof of me lying was just saying nuh-uh.
After I saw you guys being like, oh, wait, are you serious? Join VC, what are you doing right now? And I was like, alright, let me just join the call and
no, that's the wrong time.
So saying I'm sorry, here's why I did what I did, that's not a bad thing.
You don't make excuses. Accountability isn't about excuses. It's about owning up to what actually fucking happened.
Dude, I did when I said my bad. Like, what?
No, you didn't. You making excuses for something is the opposite of accountability.
That's how you view it. That's fine. But
that's just basic logic.
Basic. Yeah, basic logic. I'm sure. Okay, that's cool. When you're doing that, I'm sitting there thinking, did these dudes actually fucking think I'm about to kill myself? Hold on, bro. So when I got to that point, I joined and started laughing so you guys would stop.
No, but you did that later.
What do you mean? No, I didn't.
No. We've already made it clear. We've already made it clear that we are taking it serious.
Who's lying now?
Compare that to working a job.
I literally said, the fuck, are you serious? And you say, yes, I'm gone. And I say, this isn't funny.
Yes, and then about a minute,
Hang on. If I'm saying it's not funny, that means I'm taking it seriously.
Right,
My response to that was to continue.
No, I get that. I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
As I tried to explain where my mindset was when all of this happened, and he decided to say nuh-uh to my feelings as if there's some objective measure to prove how I was exactly feeling and why one thing happened.
Ironic.
But no, everything has to be some objective thing with SK, because he's never wrong, right? Unless he can literally be proven 100% of the fact, yup, this is wrong.
Everything you've said in this video just reaffirms each and everything I've said, and you somehow don't realize it. Or you do, but you're terrible at lying. Pick your poison.
And I have a whole recording of that conversation, which I mentioned in the beginning of the video, is in the description, where he wouldn't give me an ounce of good faith when I was trying to talk to him and explain this to him.
I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
And the funniest part about that recorded call is that SK will look at that recording and have zero self-awareness and say, yeah, I was being reasonable in that call.
Pretty insane coming from you. After he leaves, I tell him this isn't funny and everyone here is sick of him. I also told him that he made other people worried about this, such as TK, who sent Colin's tweet that started all this in a separate group chat that had 10 people in it. I had to tell them all not to criticize Colin because I believed he was considering taking his life. He proceeds to justify his actions and give an insincere and backhanded apology for it.
I explained to SK that when I said in the screenshot that he just showed, if you're actually upset, then like, my bad. That part, I was being sincere and I was genuinely sorry. I explained that to him too. He wouldn't accept it. But the other part where I say, but damn, that shit was so obvious, was, in his words, just a deflection tactic, therefore the apology meant nothing. Even though I tried to explain to him that I was being serious in my apology, and the other part of that sentence was me explaining why I did what I did. That didn't mean I wasn't sorry.
You felt the need to take a jab at me by saying, damn, that shit was obvious. I don't know if you're aware, but when you apologize for a wrongdoing, you don't say anything that puts any kind of blame on the person you've wronged, such as saying it was so obvious, as if it wasn't reasonable for me to take this seriously. This is what we call an implication. If I say something is not good, that implies it is flawed. If I say something is tasty, that implies I would eat it. If I say Colin doesn't understand implications, that implies he's stupid. If I said, damn, that shit was obvious, that means we shouldn't have taken the possibility of a friend committing suicide seriously. Get a grip.
But SK decides to say, nuh-uh, and then say, well, actually, Colin, most people don't apologize like that when they're actually sorry, buddy.
Yeah, most people who are in the wrong don't put blame on others when making sincere apologies. This is pretty standard.
As if there's some objective book for thee on how you need to give an apology that everybody needs to follow.
Should we accept any and all apologies just because they're apologies? Just consume apology and get excited for the next apologies.
But nope, if it's not in a way SK likes it, then it's not real.
If your apology is focused on blaming others instead of solely accepting responsibility, then your apology isn't sincere.
SK likes to continuously phrase this situation as, oh, Colin just suicide baited to avoid being criticized.
Because you quite literally did. I criticized you. You didn't want to hear it, so you pretended to be suicidal.
And while, from his perspective, he's technically right.
I'm technically right? Let's see how he tries to spin his way out of this one.
I didn't really think of it like that at the time I was doing it.
So then how did you think of it at the time you were doing it? Did you not tell us you wanted to kill yourself and that you were learning how to tie a rope? Were those messages suddenly not sent by your account?
I more so thought of it as something that would make them either mad or a little worried.
So you admit that your intention was to make us feel worried about you, stating that you were suicidal. You just admitted to my exact point.
I more so thought of it as something that would make them either mad or a little worried.
I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
Mad or a little worried.
I didn't think it would be taken that serious.
Oh my fucking god, man. He's such an idiot.
Just because they were pissing me off and continuing to pester me about something that I was clearly disinterested in talking about.
So you didn't like the criticisms we made, so you proceeded to avoid engaging by pretending to be suicidal as a means of angering or worrying us, as you put it. So you did in fact use suicide bait as a means of dodging criticism.
Should I have done that? No. That was a mistake on my part. But this motherfucker treats me as some irredeemable monster because of this.
You don't get to mock the idea that you're irredeemable when you've done nothing to redeem yourself for this.
And I still find it pretty funny at this point that he's still acting like this.
Did it change? Did you create a time machine to rewrite history? Why should we believe you? Because I honestly can't say that I believe you. Because you've lied before. You've lied several times.
And another thing, like, if you think about it from my perspective, right? If I was really doing this just to avoid criticism, quote unquote, or because I didn't want to take criticism, quote unquote, then why did I reveal I was joking instead of just running with the Sui thing?
So you could laugh at us and make fun of us for it. That's precisely what you did. You didn't actually come in to engage with what we were saying. You didn't refute the claim that you pretended to be suicidal as a means of avoiding criticism we were making. If anything, you admitted to it. Probably without realizing it, because that's how lacking in self-awareness you are.
Mind you, I did it within like fucking like, I don't even know, like 8 minutes. Why did I then join later to have an to just finish off the argument because you still wouldn't leave me alone.
See? Right there. You just wanted to be left alone. You just said it yourself. Your intention in pretending to be suicidal was to detract from the conversation, because you wanted to be left alone and not take any criticism. You clearly didn't want to address the criticism honestly, and only did so as a last resort, since we were clearly still annoyed with you. Notice that his first resort to receiving criticism was to try to detract from it, even by suicide baiting, and not actually addressing the criticism.
Why did I join later to finish that argument? Doesn't make much sense to me.
Because you wanted to be left alone and thought this was the only way to get this over with. You even said this at the start of the debate. Did you watch it?
I just want to get this shit over with. Like, I'm in another call, that's why I'm not joining the fucking VC.
And another thing, like any other time we were ever in some kind of controversy or some shit, whether it be against someone else or between me and you, when have I ever not had a discussion or an argument or whatever about the criticism being given to me or you? Still doesn't make much sense, but whatever.
It doesn't matter if you've taken criticism in the past, because it doesn't change the factual nature of what you did more recently. What kind of argument is that? This is how we know you're not actually sorry or willing to take accountability. You're just trying to save face because you don't have an actual defense for your actions. And then when I brought up other situations I was dealing with, one of which I had to make a video on because of how bad it was getting, my goal was to get him to understand the additional stress he was putting me on. I brought up to him that one of these situations involved a friend of mine being harassed, which nearly resulted in an actual suicide. He tells me I shouldn't consider that my problem, as if I shouldn't stand up for my friend in that situation. And he elaborates by asking why that would be put onto me if he actually did take his life. I don't know, Colin. If you don't have people defending you when you're being harassed and thinking of suicide, it might just be an obligation for your friends who know of this to support you instead of, leaving you behind. Just a thought.
I explained to SK in that call that I, keep referencing that's in the description, that I responded in this way because I interpreted as him trying to put those problems onto me when it had nothing to do with what just happened from my perspective.
No, you specifically said you don't know why Distrate possibly ending his life would be put onto me. Not yourself, me. So don't rewrite your own messages once they're met with scrutiny. The obvious problem here is that as a friend, you have an obligation to stand up for them if you know they're being harassed in a way that could result in a suicide because a similar situation happened beforehand. If your prime concern is whether or not that would be put onto you, then you don't actually care about your friend. You only care about yourself. And that's the truth about Colin. He doesn't give a crap about any of you, his supposed friends, not even his family. Just himself. It shows in each and every way he tries to defend himself, even if presented with the ways in which he has harmed others.
I admit I probably shouldn't have argued with him about it, like the other random shit he was bringing up, but to quickly add information that SK never shared about this whole Distrate situation, is someone who both me and SK know DM'd Distrate, telling him that he saw his section in the SK video about Nirvana and wanted to make sure that he was doing alright. Luckily, he seemed to be doing okay and didn't seem to know what was going on, as he told me that he wasn't sure what he was talking about, in reference to the video because he was busy with, real world.
What kind of stupid argument is this? My point about Distrate wasn't that he was suicidal at the time of my messages with Colin. I don't know where you got that from. Now, I bring up, Nirvana Mind is still harassing people like Distrate when the last time they did that, Distrate considered suicide heavily. You say, why is the Nirvana stuff your problem? And this is in response to me bringing up that my friend Distrate could possibly end his life as a result of this harassment because it happened last time. And then your response to that is, well, I don't know why that would be put on you when I'm literally trying to help him. And you're just like, well, that's something between two people individually. That's your choice. My point was that Distrate was being harassed in the exact same manner he was in the past when he was nearly brought to suicide. So when Nirvana Mind continues to be the scumbag that they are by specifically targeting Distrate again, those concerns are obviously going to pop up again, and dealing with Colin's suicide baiting isn't going to help my mental state at all. That's such a simple to understand point, and somehow Colin has spun this to make it seem like I removed context. I even told Borgie what the actual point of that was. So what is this stupid point right here?
To clarify Borgie's exact wording here, I said the video, which is why he was confused, as Borgie was under the assumption that he knew already, and he later told him that SK had made a video on Nirvana, although he did not mention that Nirvana had brought up the screenshots again. So not only did SK overblow that situation that he was talking about—
How did I overblow the situation? I said in the past, Nirvana Mind has nearly harassed Distrate to suicide. I showed full evidence of this in my video. And I also said that Distrate was being harassed again in the same way by Nirvana Mind because they're actively trying to harass Distrade again. I showed evidence of this in a community post, and while it lacks full context as just a screenshot, you will understand the full context if you watch my video on Nirvana Mind. I substantiated each and every claim about that situation. Do not pretend like I'm overblowing it, because it only makes you sound like an abuse apologist for Nirvana Mind's actions.
But the person that he was, so worried about and things of that nature didn't even know what was happening. And SK brought him up in his video to play moral high ground over something without even asking Distrate if he was comfortable with still being involved in something like that.
Fact check your statements, please. I DM'd Distrate about the document on Nirvana Mind. The video puts that document in video form. I asked him if he was okay with talking about the situation and listed additional options to redact some material to mitigate any involvement if that works for him. Distrate gave me full permission to talk about that situation in the document and said there's no need to hide anything. And he literally retweeted the document.
So not only did you do that, but you overblew something just to make me look worse. Nice.
You're literally exploiting a victim of suicidal thoughts to falsely accuse me of forcibly dragging him into drama. But hey, notice how I'm not doxing Cullen right now or trying to come up with excuses to dox him. After those ridiculous arguments, I really couldn't handle it anymore, and wait a minute. This is after I showed that recording where Kronos absolutely destroyed Colin. Notice how Colin didn't play the clip where he jumped in the VC and laughed at us for taking it seriously, which proves that he knew we took it seriously and persisted anyway. And why can't you talk about the debate with Kronos? I understand it was humiliating that Kronos absolutely annihilated you, but you gotta talk about it. This is a huge sticking point for people. Just removed him after he left. He eventually proceeded to go to a Discord server that I'm not in, which has over 130 people in there, most of which I don't know or trust, and proceeded to leak private DMs of us arguing about the subject afterwards, which ultimately doesn't share anything different from what we already know. The only thing it really shows us is that I'm not in any mood to voice chat with him, for very obvious reasons. I only found out about this leak through someone who wasn't in the group chat or involved in the situation, and someone Colin said he didn't even know was in the server. Clearly, Colin didn't care about the privacy of myself and others. He had no regard for random people grabbing those DMs and potentially spreading it to others, or leaking it publicly if they were in the mood. So because I wasn't interested in dealing with a messy game of telephone and random leaks about the situation, I decided to make a full thread with the evidence I just showed earlier, which I'll link in the description. And it's funny because beforehand, I specifically said that I will not reveal the details of why I cut ties with Colin unless Colin breaches privacy on the matter, and he proceeds to breach privacy on the matter. In response to this, he proceeds to leak the DMs on his Twitter as if this helps his case at all, when reading the DMs only reaffirms what I already showed.
Or, clearly, as I explained to you, the majority of the people in that server didn't care.
This is a pathetic justification. I don't care if most of the 130 people in that server happen to not care about what Colin was sending. I don't know most of them, I don't trust most of them, and they shouldn't be involved in this situation to begin with because it's entirely private. You breached privacy.
Except for the people who already knew about it, and it was one person in that server out of 130, so I was basically right, that sent something to SK.
I don't care if it's one person in the end. It could have been 50 for all I know. I don't know most of these people or trust them. What are you not getting about that? You're still breaching privacy. You literally admitted in a call that you didn't even know this person was on the server. The sole point I made was that you didn't have any regard for where you were sending those private messages. You didn't consider it because you didn't care. You couldn't even create a private group chat with your friends who already know about it. You made no attempt to maintain any kind of privacy because you didn't care. It's as simple as that.
And the thing I did send, which I will put on screen, in that server doesn't even make SK look bad.
In the conversation, you're alleging that I got your position wrong when I didn't. You're making it seem unreasonable that I didn't want to voice chat with you, and since you didn't show what happened in the group chat, it's more ambiguous for the people who see this and can easily spun so that I look unwilling to engage in discussion for no good reason. The mountain of context, such as the VCs themselves, perfectly outlined why I wouldn't be interested in engaging. Taking DMs out of context can look bad.
If anything, from his perspective, it makes me look bad.
The full context makes you look bad. If there's no context behind what I'm saying, then it looks bad that I refuse to get into a call to resolve this, because it makes it look like I just decided not to try resolving anything to any capacity. I clearly did in the chat, and you were unwilling to listen to criticism.
But SK wanted to overblow it and say, oh my god, my privacy was breached. I got a DM from one person. How could you do this, Colin?
You did breach privacy. You sent the DMs to people outside the group chat and allowed random people who aren't involved to see this. You did breach privacy.
You know what? I'm telling Twitter, you're getting what's coming to you, Buster. Instead of just, asking me about it before doing that.
I specifically said that if you breached privacy on the matter, I will go public. And don't pretend like you didn't see where I said that. You linked my entire thread stating that I've cut ties with you. In that same thread, this is where I said, I will not reveal the details unless privacy is breached. And as we all know, you leaked the DMs.
Like, oh no, someone found out about a dispute we had in private.
Yeah, that's the key phrase. In private.
That, from your perspective, does nothing but make me look bad. The horror.
It doesn't matter if it makes you look bad or not because it's still a private matter. What are you not getting? If I get in a fight with someone in my family and I'm in the right, that doesn't mean I want that broadcasted on the internet. What kind of stupid point is this?
Like, yeah, I'm sure you getting that one DM from someone was a real mental detriment for you.
You are coping with the fact that you can't respect basic privacy. It doesn't matter if only one person cared about it, as far as we know. What was your precaution for if more people did care and spread it to public spaces? I have a plan for you. Don't leak private DMs.
A big messy game of telephone. You totally couldn't have just told that person to not worry about it or ask me about it and moved on with your day.
History has shown that talking to you is like talking to a brick wall, so I'll pass on that. Telling the person not to worry about it doesn't guarantee that it stays private, because people have a tendency not to respect people's wishes, and I barely knew this person at the time. And even if he would respect my wishes, he could already have sent it to other people as well, before I would have said anything. You've already breached privacy on the matter. You clearly didn't care to maintain any kind of privacy, so I'm not going to bank on the idea that you somehow do.
Oh, wait, I forgot SK already spends half of his day on Twitter already.
Yeah, but at least I have a job.
And as for the reason I went ahead and just sent our DMs on Twitter, I showed the DMs to show the missing context that he didn't provide. Like me literally trying to talk to you and apologize and go over everything about the mistake that I acknowledged I made, but you didn't want to hear it.
You didn't actually apologize though. You said you would apologize, but only if it was on a one-on-one VC. If you wanted to apologize, I wasn't stopping you. You could have tried at any point in this exchange, but you didn't.
But no, remember, I wasn't giving him a sincere apology. I couldn't do that.
If you were going to apologize, you would have done it by now. 2 months later and you still haven't.
Jarvis, pull up the screenshot of me trying to apologize to SK and have a talk with him.
Notice how he didn't even pull up a screenshot of him trying to apologize?
Also, Jarvis, try to explain to this moron that you can't prove someone's feelings wrong and just say nuh-uh and call them a liar when they're telling you that they were actually sorry when they said they were.
Colin, you would have apologized by now if you were actually sorry. This is also linked in the description if you want to check for yourself. Now, I've heard Colin has justified his behavior by claiming he was sleep deprived.
Arguing with me on this stance, and I was awake for around 24 hours at the time trying to fix my sleep schedule. So I was awake for around 24 hours when this all started. So I was kind of out of it, and funny enough, one of the symptoms of lack of sleep is actually impaired judgment, which is pretty funny with everything I'm about to explain, but whatever.
Last I checked, sleep deprivation doesn't make you avoid criticism by pretending to be suicidal. It's being morally bankrupt that does.
I mean, if you want to frame it that way, sure, go ahead, by all means.
Yeah, I will. Because that's what you said in your video. You trying to explain it by Googling the side effects of sleep deprivation.
Because I'm sure none of these proven symptoms had anything to do with how I acted in that situation.
You explicitly said that you faked being suicidal to make us worried. You're gonna explain that with sleep deprivation?
Totally couldn't have gone differently if I wasn't sleep deprived for around 24 hours.
So you're blaming your morally bankrupt behavior on your lack of sleep. Okay, everyone. If Colin has ever criticized you for anything, just let him know that you were sleep deprived. So far, it's not looking great for Colin.
Ooh, scary.
I mean, you're bleeding subscribers, it's not a great outlook for you. He thinks it's bad for someone to leave a video game when someone makes fun of the genocide of their people, all because they could lose a match. He thinks it's unreasonable for Jewish people to be upset over the Holocaust by removing themselves from situations that mock the Holocaust. All because World War II ended in 1945.
No, I just think you're being soft if you, willingly ruin the fun of other people who did nothing wrong by being willing to leave a game just because you couldn't handle an offensive username online. I didn't say it was unreasonable, didn't say you couldn't be offended by it, but, keep lying, SK.
When you call someone a pussy for it and claim they're ruining people's fun, you are implying wrongdoing on their part. That's not a lie, that's a truth you refuse to accept. And instead of responding to criticism and allowing his mind to be changed, he tries to anger his friends and pretend to be suicidal. He claims that he didn't think we would actually take it that seriously, but the messages earlier proved that we believed he was actually considering suicide, and he proceeded anyway.
It's almost like being sleep deprived and in an already unserious mood can significantly impair someone's judgment on something.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
This event started off with Jack Kentner making fun of the fact that Colin is e-begging his fanbase to pay him $7,000 for a car that he couldn't financially sustain.
Alright, now we move on to something new. And this is my favorite part of the video. So first of all, I could financially sustain my car.
Not if you're begging people for $7,000.
I even was spending more money than I needed to on my car just to get mods for it, because I had the money to do so.
Which you've completely squandered.
You caused it. You did it. You got no one else. You fucking did it.
When I first bought my car, I had over $24,000 in my account, and my car was $13,200, and it was in great condition considering the mileage and the year it was made. I only put $6,200 as a down payment because it was smart to let that help me build my credit, and that still was a great move because my credit score is now over 700, it's almost at 800, and I didn't need to spend over half of what was in my account at that point just to get the car that I've wanted since I was, 8 years old. Now I've had my car for 7 months now, and it was still has been running completely fine with zero issues popping up. And during this time I had to pay taxes from last year that were a lot more money than I expected, and that took a lot of money from me. And I also had to start helping out my family even more financially than I did previously. And on top of that, I now had to pay for my car bill, gas, maintenance, and insurance. Someone even slashed me and my mom's tires, so I had to pay like $800 for new rear wheels. And guess what? I was still perfectly fine with maintaining that car that I had financially. Almost like it was still a perfectly fine financial decision that wasn't as dumb as these retards criticizing me think they know anything about.
Interesting. Are you going to play any clips from Jack Kentner's video that discuss your negligence regarding the oil, or the fact you went to fucking Reddit instead of verified professionals for your mods?
In the past 2 months, I've spent around $3,000 modding my car, under the impression that I'd still be fine financially, and I was still fine financially, until I unfortunately didn't check my car's oil level like I was supposed to, and my car's engine wound up breaking because of this. Now, the reason I didn't check this was because of two things. One, I was under the impression that my car would warn me of this, because your car fucking warns you of literally basically everything that could be wrong with it. Even if there's not something wrong, sometimes it tells you. So I didn't check it manually, thinking I would get, a warning. And my car's oil life sensor that it has like built into the computer or whatever on the dashboard, the oil life sensor said it was at 33%. I was later told that oil life sensor doesn't mean, how much oil is in the thing. And because even though I thought it did, and that was my mistake, I was unaware of that.
The fact you're unaware of how your car works tells us why we shouldn't be paying you $7,000 to fix it. Despite the big financial investment, you couldn't be bothered to check on what an oil life sensor indicates.
Cause hot damn, you wanna know what's a scam? Your fucking education, nigga, that's what the scam is.
The second reason I didn't check my oil manually is because when I first bought the car, it had just gotten an oil change. Therefore, it wasn't due for an oil change for another 5,000 to 7,000 miles. And when my car did run out of oil, I had only driven it around 2,400 miles or so, which was way faster than it was supposed to. The reason for this is likely because a lot of the miles that I put on my car were spent going between 60 and 120 miles per hour. I mean, I even did a road trip in New York, to and from New York actually, which was like an hour and a half where I was basically doing 100 the whole time up and down. But I was unaware doing shit like this would make my car burn oil as fast as it did.
You also could have killed people by driving around at 100 to 120 miles per hour, but thanks for sharing. Especially with 120 miles per hour, and you can look into this yourself, you have absolutely no room for error because the slightest mistake could get people killed. You see what I mean? He's begging for $7,000 to fix his car, which he only ruined by risking people's lives on the road and not knowing what his oil life indicates. Why should he be trusted with any of your money?
You caused it. You did it. You got no one else. You fucking did it.
I knew it wasn't the best thing you could do for your car to, keep it in, as the best condition possible, but plenty of people do what I do, especially people with, the same kind of car as me, a muscle car.
So you knew this could jeopardize your car's condition, but you still did it anyway, on the basis that plenty of other people do what you do?
Oh my fucking god, man. He's such an idiot.
Like, I can't even. Why should anyone pay this guy? He clearly has no clue what he's doing. He talks about how he needs to help his family when it comes to paying the bills, yet he's out here asking for $7,000 to fix a car for his own self-inflicted issues. Get a job, sell your car, and buy a cheaper one for when you actually need it for a job.
Like, most Hellcats don't break because they were beating on it too much. Most Hellcats break because their owners crashed them. But like, on a serious note, I'm not saying none of this was my fault, but it's a little hard to prepare for something you don't even think is going to happen.
But all you needed to do to prepare for this was to know how your car works and to not speed on the road like a crazy person when we have safety laws against this for a reason.
Oh my fucking god, man. He's such an idiot.
It's like, imagine if you own a house, right? And a component of that house, like, you know, costs a lot of money. And you didn't know that you had to check up on that thing that often. And then that thing winds up breaking because you didn't know you had to check on it that much. And you were under the impression that, you know, I guess your house code or something would tell you, even though that doesn't really happen. But you get my point. And the worst part about this is the fact that I was going to get an oil change in another like 100 miles or so, which was even earlier than I thought I would even need to. But at least now, I guess, I know to check my oil more often. Sucks I had to learn it in the way that I did, but, you know, I know now. Anyways, after I was told that my car's engine was broke, I was also told that it was going to cost upwards of $7,400 to fix. And like it would do to most people, that number coming at me randomly made my financial situation really bad in an instant.
So get a job.
And due to the fact that I will probably have to get a loan to be able to still pay bills and, you know, live as an adult, I will have to add another $7,400 onto my car payment that still has $6,000 left on it.
So you needed to take loans in order to pay the bills because you stupidly went 100 to 120 miles per hour on the road, which could absolutely kill other people, and you didn't even check how your oil life actually works. Your family depends on you, and this is the stupid stuff you do with your money. This is what I mean that he only gives a shit about himself and has little regard for other people. After this, I don't ever want to hear you complain about ruining things for other people because someone left a Marvel Rivals match.
And you know what my crime was in this situation? Telling my audience about what happened and asking for help if anybody wanted to.
Well, technically, your crime was going 100 to 120 miles per hour on the road. We're just mocking the fact that you're asking us to pay your bills when you couldn't even properly sustain this big financial investment to begin with, and because you haven't found yourself a job.
I didn't ask for anyone in specific or anyone in general to literally give me $7,400. All I did was say, hey, I got fucked. If anyone wants to help, here's how you can do it. And this turned into people, mostly from SK's community, telling me things like, get a job, as if I don't already have one, which was literally the reason I was even able to buy and sustain my fucking car.
Well, clearly you couldn't sustain it. Now, if we put the memes aside and be serious for a moment, yes, YouTube can technically serve as a job, if you have a pretty damn good plan. But it's evident that you clearly don't. And if you're in such a dire need for money, and your family depends on you to pay the bills, maybe stop being lazy and actually apply for a job. It's not hard to make videos and work a job, especially if it's part-time. Get to work.
Or you bought a shitty car, or you're trying to scam people, or you broke your car by being stupid and modding your car. These people are trying to tell me what I can afford and what I did to my car while simultaneously not knowing shit about my situation or even knowing the slightest bit about how modding cars work. But no, I'm a terrible person just for asking if anyone could help in any way if they could.
You seem really upset over the jokes about how you need to get a job. Strange, I thought you were in favor of any and all jokes without limits whatsoever. That's at least what it seems like by your inability to set a standard.
Even though thousands of other YouTubers and streamers constantly tell their audience, hey, if you want to support me a bit further, sub to my Twitch, or become a YouTube channel member, or become a Patreon member, even when they are not financially fucked.
Yeah, but I imagine most of these people don't ruin their cars by speeding on the road and almost killing people.
But I doubt you run around saying they are e-begging or telling them to get a job or implying they're a bad person for asking for extra support to anyone that, you know, wants to and can help.
I mean, the memes are irresistibly funny, and your situation is a product of your own reckless and lazy behavior. So you can drop the pity party because I don't think anybody is interested.
Like, you people are so fucking brain dead.
Ooh, a nerve was definitely struck.
And to the few people that have sent me something to help in any way they could, I appreciate you guys a lot.
I couldn't agree more. We really gotta commend Sheev Talks for his contribution to the cause. Everyone, give him a round of applause.
But what you gotta understand about my financial situation is being a YouTuber, my income is inconsistent.
Then get a fucking job with a consistent pay. Your family largely depends on you, and you choose an inconsistent form of pay.
Most of the months I make perfectly fine money to handle what I need to handle in my, daily life. And a lot of my money was also being saved so that I could eventually move out in the next year or two, because my mom is essentially, making me get out within that time period.
So you're supposed to be moving out of your home within the next year or so, and you've decided to invest a ton of money in a car that you clearly couldn't sustain financially, and you're asking us for $7,000 just for that car. Get a job.
So now, with this happening, it makes it much harder to, save money for my future.
Keep in mind that Colin doesn't actually need this car for work because YouTube is his source of income, so this isn't a necessity for him nor a contributor to his work, and is more so just a privilege for him. So this resulted in a running joke where people on Twitter would tell Colin to get a job. It started hashtag Colin get a job, and the stream of memes it created is honestly hilarious, so I'm just gonna link the hashtag in the description too. I will also link Jack Kentner's video on the matter that talks about the car situation itself in more detail, and why it's really stupid to send Colin money in this situation.
Oh really, SK? I was unaware that you know what I do outside of YouTube, or, you know, when I'm not talking to you, what I do in, you know, the real world.
Colin, I don't need to know that to tell you that your car isn't necessary for the money you make. Remote jobs don't require vehicles.
I totally don't use my car to do, you know, basic adult things that everybody has to do, and
I assume your legal guardian has a car of their own, and even if that somehow changed, you could have sold the car and bought a cheaper one for basic transport, and not go to fucking Reddit for mods or whatever you did.
you know, help out around the house, or
Do those chores include speeding on the road at 120 miles per hour?
to help my sister get to and from work, so that she can also buy her own car and help, you know, help out our family and, you know, move out herself when my mom makes us move out in the next year or two.
So wait, your sister's income depends on your car, yet you speed that around like an idiot and don't check for even basic things like how the oil life sensor operates. Just give the car to your sister at this point. It would be bad faith to not automatically trust someone more than you with a car.
And I totally wasn't considering for a while getting a second job, and even to this day, considering that same thing, even before this happened, which is now basically off the table to, you know, a lot of places of business due to the fact that I don't have a working car currently.
Colin, your point only works if you actually get a job. Also, not all jobs require vehicles. If you take a look at any site that shares job postings, you would realize that there are so many remote opportunities out there. There are literally features that filter out remote jobs for you. You would realize this if you put forth the effort to get a job.
But it's nice to see you assume that I don't need it for anything other than joyriding, I guess.
Well, with how reckless you are with that thing.
And I don't even know if you knew this or not. You probably didn't because you're a fucking moron. Every car is a privilege, quote unquote.
There's a difference between a car being a privilege and a car being just a privilege. When talking about your income, I am correct to say that your car isn't a necessity. Because you don't have a job.
Nobody objectively needs a car,
It depends on your line of work.
as there are other methods of transportation. Except the reason everyone wants a car is because it allows a lot of things in their life to be easier.
Yeah, like driving to a place of employment.
And it's so funny that you stoop so low that this motherfucker is recommending Jack Kentner videos. Like, are we serious right now?
Hold on a second. You're telling me that I stooped so low because I recommended a Jack Kentner video? Are you telling me that you don't like the person who made it, therefore I shouldn't be recommending it? A tale as old as fucking time. Cronus is gonna be overjoyed when he hears about this. On that same community post, he's cool with mocking the criticism towards him that he suicide baited to avoid criticism, which goes to show that he isn't actually sorry despite insisting he was.
First of all, no shit, I'm mocking it because this guy, unlike you, got the fact that this Mario image was an obvious joke and I wasn't being serious.
Okay, but posting a Mario meme is obviously different from sending several messages to people that you have plans of suicide in response to someone asking about your mental health.
And why the fuck would I be sorry anymore?
You never were, and it was blatantly obvious from the start.
About something that you wouldn't give me an ounce of good faith on, and now the fact that we aren't even fucking friends anymore? You fucking dumbass, what the fuck makes you think I'm still sorry?
So if you're not friends with someone anymore because of an awful decision that you made, that you have done nothing but poorly defend yourself on, you're no longer sorry for it? That's the best you got. The get a job memes on Colin kept spreading and spreading. Even his own Discord server was making fun of him for it. And it spawned many arguments with his own fans, which led to some very revealing things about him. Someone alleged that Colin said he would rape Sydney Sweeney, and his response to that was that if he ever did say something like this and it was taken seriously, then this person's a moron, because apparently it's stupid to call out disgusting comments like this about people. What this communicated to me at the time is that, at least on a moral level, Colin supports sexually harassing actresses by saying he'd rape them. He publicly tells people if that they hear comments like this and take that seriously, They're the idiots here. He also tried to defend himself on Twitter by saying it's private and that they're jokes. So it's possible that he might have a code against public remarks like this, but is cool with it in private, which means that while he may not support sexual harassment, he definitely supports disgusting comments about people as long as they're not seen. Not like that's a glowing distinction either. Now, I may be a little crazy here, but I don't think many people would be comfortable with others talking about raping them behind closed doors, jokes or not. Because if you were to say that kind of stuff to their face, that qualifies as sexual harassment. And seeing that he's not denying the accusation for having said those things, he seems totally okay with letting the world know that he makes those kinds of comments and remains proud of it.
Or, it just means that I'm fine with most things said, fucked up or not, so long as it's not serious. And as long as something like that isn't directly said to someone, like, what?
Okay, everyone. If you've suffered a death in the family, Colin thinks it's okay to make fun of the death of your family members as long as they're jokes and not said directly to you. That's the kind of logic he's presenting here. I don't care if you call them jokes because my point was never that you were serious. My point was that this is foul and disrespectful. Colin, why do you care about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League making jokes about Batman dying and calling it disgusting garbage? It's a joke. It's actually worse in this instance because this is a fictional character and he's justifying jokes he's making about real shit that happens.
You can say it's a fucked up thing to say, but calling someone a terrible person because they said something in private that wasn't even serious is stupid to me.
I don't need to latch on to your gross comments about Sydney Sweeney to call you a terrible person. We have the rest of your conduct for that. All I said was that it's disgusting and reflects poorly on your character. Because that's true.
And you used to hold that same exact standard about fucked up things said in private, until the past couple days ago.
That's not true at all. I've criticized myself in this very regard in the past. Very publicly. I have resorted to edgy humor like what we saw with the Marvel Rivals nickname and have even used slurs to make jokes. Even though much of this was private and not reflective of genuinely hateful beliefs, it is still in bad taste and disrespectful, and I did not have the right to say stuff like that. That's not to say each and every example of edgy jokes are bad. I made an animation where Deadpool shoots Southpaw in the head while he's debating the Amazing Lucas.
No, the movie is perfect.
It's not perfect.
It is perfect.
Why is it perfect?
Goodbye.
But the clear difference is that Southpaw and I are not only friends, but Southpaw himself has established that he's okay with making memes where he gets killed or beaten up. So when I make a meme like this, Southpaw is in on the joke. But if I were to ask Sydney Sweeney if she's okay with you saying you'd rape her, I highly doubt she'd be okay with this considering many people aren't. Have you ever had that moment in school where you figured out people were making some shitty comments about you in private because they thought it would be funny? Did it make it okay because it was talked about privately and done for their own humor? My standard comes down to a basic principle of respect and consent. If someone doesn't want their appearance to be made fun of, then respect their wishes. But if Comic Legend and I make fun of each other, neither of us are going to care because we're both in on the joke. There's consent involved. Stuff like the Marvel Rivals nickname is just disrespectful, and people have the right to be offended by it. Now, Colin wants to make it seem like I'm just setting a moral high ground and I refuse to criticize myself or my friends for anything, but that's not true at all. Like, I'm still a human being and I'm still figuring stuff out, so if I actually do in any way slip up on my own standards, feel free to point that out, because everyone's gonna be hypocritical at some point in their lives, but the difference that ultimately counts is how you respond when it's pointed out to you. If you're receptive and you try to learn from it, that's a good thing. If you don't and you do what Colin does, then, well, history has shown what happens then.
Because you want to smear me as much as possible and try to play this whole morally superior game.
Colin, your own fans that loved you and your content that would have every reason to not want to believe what I'm saying are turning against you. Does that accusation extend to them too?
Why don't you show people the recording of the call we had after people started calling me racist over jokes, where you had that same standard and you explained that in that same call?
That recording doesn't do yourself any favors. If anything, it reaffirms what I said about consent. Let's roll the tape.
Let me explain why in the context of the video it doesn't work, right? Because if it's just a joke between you and the witness, right? That's fine. However, how you presented it in the video was, well, if someone just makes it, if someone goes out in public and brazenly does that, that still falls under what you just described.
Notice how I said I didn't care if you made private jokes about the witness. To the witness. He's your friend in this situation. If TK DMs me about how I should die for liking Sonic games, he gets to do that because we're friends and neither of us mind. But if TK were to say this about some random person he isn't friends with, that person is within their right to have a problem if they find out about it. The recording you tried to use against me works against you. The problem with your comment that you're not understanding is that you aren't friends with Sydney Sweeney. She would most likely have a problem with you saying you want to rape her, and therefore you're disrespecting the person. You don't get to act like this is remotely the same as an agreed upon set of jokes amongst two friends that are about each other.
And if you want to magically hold that standard all of a sudden, I sure hope that there aren't multiple videos on my PC right now of one of your friends saying a lot of fucked up shit. And if you ever do force my hand to release those, I sure hope you hold the same standard for him, and that goes for the rest of SK's community as well.
Colin, when you keep making threats to people who criticize you, you're only making yourself sound desperate. This isn't even me he's talking about. This is about something my friend allegedly said. Let's say that Comic Legend did say something similar to what you said. Would I criticize him? Yes, but I imagine that Comic Legend isn't going to avoid criticism by pretending to be suicidal or disingenuously acting as if the Holocaust shouldn't greatly affect people today. The way you respond to criticism is more revealing than the original criticism. Usually when I or other friends of mine criticize each other, they're receptive and try to improve. You don't do that.
And the funniest thing about this is it reminds me of another quick dispute that was resolved in like 1 minute between me and someone who SK both know, who I will not name, again, because he probably doesn't want to be involved in this, or it's another person that probably doesn't want to be involved in this.
Well, then why are you mentioning this at all, you stupid piece of shit? If you didn't want to involve this person, then don't use him as a fucking shield against your stupid position.
And your boy Comic Legend was there for this too. But I made a sexual assault joke about not a specific person, but just the concept in general. And this person, who I will not name, told me he wasn't comfortable with those jokes because he went through something that had to do with SA. I told him I'm sorry, and we moved on with our day, and we're still friends because, you know, he knew I was joking and just set a boundary.
So you don't even know if this person is okay with you mocking sexual assault, but you proceeded anyway. Do I even need to explain how dumb that is? Why do people need to set a boundary after you make the joke instead of you having the common sense to not make it in the first place? This is exactly what I'm talking about. He's so stupid. He has no regard for anyone's feelings except for his own, and it really shows.
Crazy how reasonable and quickly things can be solved when you're not a little bitch about something and don't immediately resort to moral high grounding and calling someone a terrible person.
Please explain to me why the boundary needs to be set first instead of you having the self-control to shut your mouth. I feel like that should just be an unspoken rule because it's common fucking sense to not make fun of a sensitive issue like this.
And I like how he says he makes those comments and is proud of it, as if it's some Medal of Honor badge I hold on my shirt. Again, just to frame me as bad as possible.
You are proud of it. If you weren't proud of it, you would at the very least apologize for it instead of attacking people criticizing it. That's the crazy part about this whole public versus private distinction. Even if we want to fully accept his standard, that you can say whatever the hell you want in private because it's private, he proceeded to attack people when his private comments became public. When people reasonably find what he said to be messed up, he starts attacking them for it. What if these people are mad at you because they went through a situation involving rape, or know someone close to them who has? Well, I doubt you care because you publicly defend that conduct as if it's okay to say that you want to rape whoever you want because you're joking.
I didn't deny it and said I'm fine with jokes in that context that I just talked about earlier, and I never said I was proud of the jokes or that everyone should be okay with these jokes. I just explained that it's a kind of joke that me and many other people who find fucked up but unserious shit funny, we are allowed to laugh at and make those kinds of jokes.
You can make those jokes all you want, and we're allowed to judge you for them as well. If you don't want to be judged for this, then maybe stop making disgusting comments like that.
While still being able to acknowledge it's something fucked up, but we're not a terrible person for this kind of thing.
Based on how you're choosing to respond to it, you definitely are. Can you imagine for a second if Colin were to make fun of the death of a family member, and his response to being caught for that was, well, it was in private and it was a joke, so it's okay for me to do that? I really don't think that's gonna fly with most people.
Well, I would probably apologize if confronted by the person being joked about, or someone affected by said joke.
Because you want to save face, not because you're actually sorry. What kind of response is that? You should already know that you're disrespecting someone's lost family member when you made the joke, but it takes someone saying they're obviously not okay with it for you to apologize? Furthermore, what does this mean moving forward? Will Colin continue to make jokes about their dead relative after apologizing, just so long as it stays in private? Because that's even more disgusting and disrespectful. Colin keeps self-reporting on himself in this video, and it's not looking good. I want everyone here to know that if you have a dead family member, there's a good chance that Colin is going to make fun of it. And if you catch him doing it and he apologizes for it, there's a good chance that he's going to do it once more. That's at least what his standard is telling us.
But people make jokes about shit like 9/11 and other horrific events. That doesn't mean they're terrible people, and it doesn't mean they actually believe the thing they're saying or they are serious about it.
I didn't say they actually believe the things they say. You're missing the point each time you say this. What I said is that it's disrespectful. You have yet to disprove that. And it's one thing to be disrespectful and not see it as such, but come to an understanding upon having a discussion. I don't think you're a terrible person if you are that person. That's not the person Colin is, and he has proven this time and time again.
This motherfucker is acting like Sydney Sweeney came to me and I told her to get over it.
How stupid are you? My entire point is that she shouldn't have to come up to you and explain this to you like a child, that she doesn't appreciate being talked about like this. There is something seriously wrong with you if you think you should be told to stop first instead of just not doing that in the first place. And again, let's say Sydney Sweeney did tell him to knock it off. Is he gonna do it again? Is he gonna continue privately saying he wants to rape her, even after he was told she isn't comfortable with it? The fact Colin needs to be told not to say he will rape people is very concerning.
Like, no, it was a bunch of random people. What a dumbass false equivalency.
Now at this point, there was so much we were making fun of Colin for, and with each new low Colin would reach, the next never surprised us. Though, I'm going to discuss a part of this where I actually did make a mistake and step too far. One of Colin's former close friends, the witness, decided to take advantage of the fact that there was a massive session where Colin was being clowned on, even by his own server. He decided to fabricate a story where Colin was drunk and dropped his cat over and over again, and accidentally killed it. We were hesitant to believe him at first because he has been caught lying many times in the past, specifically about what he does for a living and how accomplished he actually is. He was also an alleged felon, though he shared documents indicating that he wasn't actually convicted. We specifically required video evidence for that reason and not just a screenshot. On one hand, we didn't want to accept screenshot evidence because we don't fully trust this guy's word alone. On the other hand, as many of you likely know, the witness was someone who was close to Colin for years, and Colin was willing to let him crash at his place before New York Comic Con, so it was highly probable that he would have access to some damning information about Colin. I specifically asked him to screen share and screen record that specific DM and click on the profile as a means of verification, and he did exactly that to convince people that the DM was real, which facilitated our belief in the story. But further analysis of the video and the narrative resulted in us spotting errors, some of which we gave Colin the chance to outline in a voice call with the witness, and some of which we found on our own as we were growing more skeptical. So it became more apparent that the witness falsified evidence to appear real, likely to play on the fact that we were already clowning on Colin for the other things he did. I corrected the narrative and apologized for sharing this. However, before we even had the conversation with Colin to prove that the witness lied, Colin threatened to leak my face for talking about this. And he ended up posting several images of my face on Twitter out of spite, and pinged every fan on his server with my face. He didn't take it down until after I realized the evidence was falsified, and took it down on my end, then asked him to take down the images of my face now that this issue was cleared. And even then, I had to reach out to Stir, who happened to still be a mod on a server, to delete any messages that still had my face, including the original ping Colin made to his server, since it still shows the images despite the tweet being deleted. And he had to make a server announcement to tell Colin's fans to stop sharing my face, and to delete it off their devices. But thanks to Colin, I can't be sure my privacy was kept.
Alright, well, now that SK explained the situation, I don't really have to. But what he's going to do in the next part of the video is make up a bunch of bullshit excuses to make himself seem better than he actually is. And you can feel free to watch that after this video or something. As soon as SK decided to make a tweet labeling me a psychotic cat murderer, I immediately disproved the evidence he shared. And in response, he said that I edited the messages, to which I immediately proved I physically cannot edit the message. And I pointed out multiple things about how faulty the logic in the story was. And even after proving this and having so much in my favor that this was not real, SK still continued to run with the story for hours.
No, I questioned some of your responses because some of it didn't make sense. For example, I was asking the witness to search for the message again, but he said he couldn't because he was blocked, shown by him searching Colin's name and nothing showing up. I asked Colin to unblock the witness, and Colin claimed to never blocked him and called me a dumbass in the process. Yet after that happened and I asked him to search up his name again, suddenly it started working and Colin's name showed up, which already cast suspicion onto Colin's defenses. I brought this up and said that the witness blocked him so he couldn't search for his name. That's false because the witness screen shared himself blocking a random account and then searching their name successfully. Colin showed himself failing to edit the message, so I questioned Witness on this, and he said it depends on which version of the app you have, and device swapping can make this easy to cover up. While not impossible, I did find that confusing, so I wanted to dig further into this. What's interesting though, is that Colin showed he couldn't edit the message on his PC, but didn't show why he couldn't, therefore leaving it open for interpretation. I actually looked into this, and it turns out you can't edit messages from over 15 minutes ago, which prompted me to cast doubt on the story, so I proceeded to question him. He provided some fake AI overview stating that they removed that limit but eventually reinstated it, and believing that it was a real Google search at first since he actually did screen share it and showed that result. I spent a good chunk of time looking for where he would have found this and didn't find anything. The situation I found myself in was seeing Colin respond to something, then hearing the witness give a counter that I can't respond to easily. Colin eventually suggested doing a voice call for this reason to show where he edited the video by using a frame-by-frame analysis. For this sole reason, I agreed to temporarily unban Colin from my server so he can make his case. Now keep in mind that Colin specifically said that he can show me proof he edited the video he sent me, but only if he gets into a VC and screen shares. This implies that being in a voice chat is instrumental in clearly proving his case. So for him to claim that I'm a liar, despite giving him this exact opportunity to make his case, is ridiculous. This isn't evidence of lying, this is just evidence that I didn't see how it was edited and needed it pointed out to me. And nowhere does this justify doxing my face.
He didn't reach out to me to get me in a call with Jaden. I had to do that.
I agree, and this also applies to you since you only suggested this hours after you licked my face, so I advise holding yourself to this same standard regarding timing.
Again, he continued to do this for hours until I had to tell him to get me into a call so I can just end this right now for sure, because he was being such a fucking moron.
And I gave you the chance to make your case, then apologized afterwards. Now going by your own standard, it's time for you to move on. I already apologized and redacted everything, and addressed exactly that in the video, so there's really nothing for you to disagree with. So, why are you still here complaining by your own logic?
And what makes it even worse that he continued doing this for so long is the thing that got him to concede that he was finally wrong was the same thing that I posted first in response to him first announcing this shit to everyone.
It's more so a culmination of each and every point that was brought up and seeing the witness slipping up in real time, and for one of these points, you said you had to join a voice call and screen share to make your case for.
Like, you cannot make this shit up. So I told him if he wants to keep trying to literally ruin my career with such damning accusations, something that can not only ruin my career, but also any new future career, and possibly even get me arrested. I told him to retract everything and admit he was wrong, or I'm posting his face. And I knew posting his face was a messed up thing to do.
So instead of responding to false accusations that people believe due to false evidence that appeared to be real at the time, you proceeded to threaten to dox someone, because that's definitely going to inspire people to trust what you have to say. People who threaten to leak personal information are people who need to use leverage to win their case instead of using actual information. That made people more convinced you actually did it.
But the fact that he is so delusional to think what I did was worse than what he did, which was continue to ignore blatantly faulty logic.
I literally allowed you to join the call to explain your case and conceded to it. That's not ignoring faulty logic. It's literally redacted. In your own words, move on.
Ignore and come up with any excuse to discredit the very thing that is blatantly disproving his whole narrative?
I'm not ignoring it if I'm actively giving you the chance to break it down in full digestible detail where you can directly respond to anything that the witness says to try to cover himself. What are you not getting about that?
And the fact that instead of immediately letting me defend myself in a call or looking a lot further into the false evidence he got from someone that literally lied about damn near every aspect of his life, he decided to make a narrative that I'm a psychotic cat murderer.
No, I didn't make the narrative. The witness made it, and I believed it and spoke about it. Believing false evidence that was designed to appear real and retracting it once realizing why it's fake is not at all worse than knowingly doxing someone. You knew exactly what you were doing, but did it anyway. I didn't know what I was doing and walked back on it once I realized the truth. One of these is not like the other.
Because he was so eager to keep making people hate me even more.
You've done that yourself, and for every other point made against you, you absolutely deserve the hate. You're an embarrassment to the platform, anyone who had the displeasure of ever being your friend, and even your own family members based on your car antics.
And I like how he tries to say, oh, we weren't fine with screenshots because that's not good enough, but the video? Yeah, that totally can't be faked.
That's usually what I do to verify DMs. If I'm trying to prove that a message sent to me is real, the first thing I do is screen record and click on the profile to link the message to the person. And yes, I agree that this was dumb and in retrospect apologized for it. I make no excuse for it. This criticism towards me is completely warranted. However, it seems Colin doesn't want to get over with it, despite setting a standard that once someone apologizes, you have to accept it and move on. Just to make myself clear, he's still allowed to be as upset today, and I'm not going to judge him for that particularly. What I am going to criticize him for is that he clearly stands by the face doxing, and he's telling his audience of many people when he's very influential in the community that it's okay to dox people if they do something quote-unquote bad enough.
And I can't with the overblown bullshit he keeps bringing up of doxing me. This fucking inbred hermit crab keeps gassing up. Yeah, I showed your face. Yeah, and guess what? You're a 20,000 sub YouTube channel, and there's thousands of other people who are 100 times more famous than you with a public face and name. Guess what? Most of them have never had the problem of someone finding them and doing anything.
That doesn't matter. You still leaked my face out in the public, and therefore violated my privacy. I don't care if other YouTubers have avoided doxing despite showing their faces. They made that choice to share it. I didn't. And it doesn't matter if a lot of YouTubers have avoided doxing, because some YouTubers haven't avoided doxing. Sharing any private information about someone can bring someone closer to finding more pieces of the puzzle. That's the basis for how doxing is done. If someone has the state I live in, and a perfect image of what I look like, and if someone obsessive enough happens to see me on the street, at a restaurant, whatever, they have the opportunity to follow me to my home address without suspecting anything. Though it is unlikely for many people to do this, it only takes one person obsessive enough for this to be a danger to me, because it only takes one person to break into my home with a weapon, or to share information with other dangerous people. Why am I explaining why doxing is bad? I do want to add that Jack Kentner, someone who has less followers and subscribers than me, literally had one of his family members harassed and called by one of Colin's fans, because they were obsessive enough to dig into his personal information and to make a phone call. When I was shown this, I had to make an announcement on Colin's server to tell them to knock it off and tell them that it's unacceptable. That's the reason we never saw Jack Kentner return at Disagreement Day. Though, hopefully Colin being off the show encourages the grand return.
It's a very hard thing to do.
But it's still possible, and one person doing it is already dangerous.
And it's a very uncommon thing in the grand scheme of how many celebrities and famous influencers there are.
Playing the likelihood game to defend doxing is not the route you want to go down.
And you are not a famous influencer. Neither am I.
It doesn't matter, because all it takes is one person who is obsessed enough with each and every detail about someone for doxing to be dangerous. Stop defending this.
And I have more than double your sub count. If you want to keep pretending that I was worse in this situation, by all means, keep being a delusional idiot.
Doxing people over a misunderstanding is indeed worse than a misunderstanding.
And you know what's funny? Is for someone that thinks you being found and put in danger is such a big risk that's likely to happen to you, you know my face is public too. Hell, I've even shown what my street looks like in public. And you decided to spread a fake story.
Didn't know it was fake, and your comparison only works if I knew it was fake but proceeded anyway.
About me being a cat murderer, as if someone out there wouldn't be willing to do something terrible to me for that. And it's funny that when you're in the wrong and try to explain why you did what you did, you're still genuine in your apology in your eyes.
Because when I apologized, I apologized. I didn't make any backhanded statements or place any blame onto you for my actions. I did mention the doxing afterwards, but that was an entirely separate point and not part of the apology. Those two are separate. There is no capacity to which Colin is to blame for me wrongfully believing this information. I should have dug further into it instead of what I generally consider verification for DMs. I make no excuses for it, even if I didn't get much sleep that day.
But when I do the same thing, it's a backhanded apology that justifies my actions. Yeah, that dumbass logic can be easily flipped onto you right now.
Yeah, but I'm not being backhanded in my apology. I accepted full responsibility and didn't tell you just to move on when you were upset over it. Well, I did in this video, but solely to point out an inconsistent standard, rather than to make a serious point like you did. The only times I've attempted to explain myself is when hit with the accusation that I was deliberately lying. If you didn't say that, then I wouldn't even bother breaking this down to you.
And one final thing before I wrap this shit up. SK, if you're so worried about you being found or your personal or any personal information being shown, you little fucking hermit, then stop getting into drama with random people every other week.
Well, for starters, I don't. But even if I do, it's usually to defend someone or call out what I perceive to be bad takes or behavior. Should people not be critical of anything because they might get doxxed by a nutjob like you?
You've probably been in more drama than the fucking Kardashians have been in.
Remember when Comic Legend and I had to save your ass when people were calling you racist and transphobic because of an argument you started with people? That was a fun time.
You're black and you eat watermelon. You're black and you eat watermelon. I mean, if I could probably think of something clever if I was actually...
Colin.
Oh, and I didn't send this to Southpaw at the time in the interest of avoiding drama, but when I basically told Colin that there was a resolution with Southpaw, and I think he should be given a simple apology for constantly mocking him for months over his document that he was working on to defend himself from a smear campaign started by a bunch of liars over at Ecom, he proceeded to tell me to tell Southpaw to suck his dick. So just so we're clear, Southpaw was being smeared by liars and faced emotional harm from Colin's constant mockery, and Colin falsely accused his doc of being about irrelevant drama and an overall waste of time, despite its existence serving to clear his name from life-ruinous allegations. When I try to clarify the facts to him, he tells me to tell Southpaw to suck his dick. Not only does this make it clear that I'm the one avoiding drama and he's the one cool with escalating it, but also that Colin supports attacking people and making false accusations against them for trying to fight back against a smear campaign, where said group of liars exploited a grooming victim to create life-damaging allegations against Southpaw. So I guess by Colin's logic, Southpaw should just dox Colin too. In fact, by Colin's logic he's presenting, he shouldn't even care about the cat story. If he wants to go for this eye for an eye angle, then he deserves false accusations to be made against him, because he did the same to Southpaw. I don't believe that logic holds up, but Colin definitely does.
You ever think that maybe for a second, you could be a problem here?
For sure, and I try to learn and improve whenever I'm the problem. You, however, seem to do the opposite.
You ever think that if you're so scared of any little personal information being shown, that you shouldn't be constantly in drama with people?
Which drama in particular? Because the video on Nirvana Mind was made as a product of their refusal to stop in spite of a ceasefire, which I proved in the video. Which case are you talking about?
You finally ran into someone who gave you real consequences for your bullshit.
The real consequences in question is doxing.
And you can keep crying about it, bitch.
Okay, and you can keep crying about your bleeding subscriber count.
Did I have to show your face? No. Was I in the wrong to do that? Maybe.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
Sure, but I warned you to stop being a dumbass, and instead you continue to be ignorant and continue to spread false information for hours.
So being ignorant of something means you dox someone instead of correcting said information. Brilliant logic.
Instead of doing the multiple other things that you could have done instead, to not only stop this earlier, but to also not even start it at all. And as far as the other stuff still being left in my server after I told him I would delete it, I completely didn't even know that the image would still stay up there, like the ping, the @everyone thing.
Wow, you were unaware of something? Guess I should dox you now.
If I deleted the tweet. I thought it would just pop up as unknown. That was a mistake. And then when Stir pinged everyone on my server, you didn't tell me to do that. You just told me to delete the shit.
Yeah, because earlier I didn't know people were posting my face on the server. From what I heard, people were mostly cooking you for this, like they are in your comments and will continue to do so because of your stupid actions. But I was shown that my face was being sent anyway, so I requested Stir to remove it and to make an announcement to people. That's not to say that I told Colin to do so and he didn't. That's simply to say that I had to do this as a product of his fans saving my face and spreading it. That is the end of the video. To say all of this speaks for itself is an understatement. The list of stupid and insane is overwhelming, and this is unfortunately going to be Colin's legacy if he refuses to change. Anytime he makes a response video to someone, this is all going to surface again. Anytime he gets into conflict with someone, which is very common for him, this is all going to be brought to the forefront. Colin can't be taken seriously as a critic anymore, seeing how he takes criticism and the ridiculous standards he sets to justify his way of the highway. Riding at 120 miles per hour.
You will go back to prison, and you will live the rest of your miserable life in a cage, knowing you'll never have Vanessa. That this city rejected you. It beat you. I beat you. You'll keep my secret, and you won't harm Karen Page or fucking Nelson or anyone else. Because if you do, I will go after your wife. And I will prove Vanessa ordered the murder of Agent Ray Nadeem. And like her husband, she'll spend the rest of her life in a cell.